Today's episode is presented by Purple Carrot. Purple Carrot is the plant-based subscription meal kit that makes it easy to cook irresistible meals to fuel your body.
Purple carrot, isn't that emoji that means something?
I think that's an eggplant.
Silly me. Anyway, we love Purple Carrot. Each week you can choose from an expansive and delicious menu of dinners, lunches, breakfasts, and snacks.
Every box is an opportunity to learn and experience something new with easy recipes and fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients.
No shopping, no food waste.
Just globally inspired, restaurant-quality, plant-based meals.
Get $30 off your first box by going to purplecarrot.com and entering code PODGO30 at checkout today.
That's PODGO30 for $30 off your first Purple Carrot box.
Purple Carrot, the easiest way to eat more plants.
Rocky Horror Minute is rated R. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is also rated R. We're going to spend this time discussing the movie in gory detail, and along the road we will talk about some adult content and use some of our favorite swear words.
Shih Tzu, Fuck Sound, Affin Pincher, Skipper Key, Spinoni.
Consider yourselves warned. Welcome to Rocky Horror Minute, the podcast where we break down the Rocky Horror Picture Show in excruciating detail 1 minute at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Leandra.
And I'm your other host, Kelly.
And we are joined once again by our special Bat guest, Niall McGowan of Bat Minute.
How are you doing tonight, Niall?
Oh, I'm not too bad. I'm again just happy to talk about this movie.
So, again, we're in minute 32 of the movie. It begins with Frankenfurter having just heard the outburst from Brad. He says, "How forceful you are, Brad. Such a perfect specimen of manhood. So dominant." And then the Transylvanians kind of all giggle or ooh and ah. One of them notably raises her little opera glasses to her eyes to get a better look at, I assume, his bulge. And then and then Frank continues, "You must be awfully proud of him, Janet." And she is kind of bashful as well. "Yes, I am." And then they giggle together. After they giggle, Frank says, "Do you have any tattoos, Brad?" And he says, "Certainly not." And then Frank says, "Oh, well, how about you?" to Janet. And she just thinks that is the most rapscallion-y thing he could have said. She laughs. She's very charmed. And then Riff Raff comes over and says, "Everything is in readiness, master. We merely await your word." And Frank then shoves his drink, spills it all over Riff Raff, and then goes over to the speaker that's set up. And so then he begins his speech. Magenta is on his right side. Columbia is on his left. They're both wearing surgical masks, which are quite in fashion now in 2020. and then he begins his speech, which is, "Tonight, my unconventional conventionalists, you are to witness a new breakthrough in biochemical research, and paradise is to be mine." And that's it. And there's applause. So that's the minute.
Yeah,
Quite a minute.
This is the first scene we get of Frank, though, in his I don't know, we call them surgical scrubs or his doctor outfit or whatever you want to refer to. Fans of Batman Returns might know that the Penguin is a member of, he's the leader of the Red Triangle gang. And their symbol is, of course, a red triangle. And Frank's got a red triangle on his breast there. And I was like, oh, in my head, I was like, making a little, oh, Frankenfurter, member of the Red Triangle gang, confirmed. But then from looking into it, it's like, oh, I wonder, looking into the potential meaning behind that. People on the internet are very insistent, like, it's not a red triangle. It's just whatever the color saturation of the movie is. It's actually a pink triangle he has on his chest.
Oh.
And they're saying that is, in fact, during the Holocaust. If they had red triangles would mark like sort of people that the Nazis felt were like, ne'er-do-wells and things like that. Like the people they didn't like were marked with red triangles, and then homosexuals were marked with a pink triangle. And really, and the fact now that he's happily wearing the pink triangle, as if like he's owning it now. It's like, yep, like I'm, back in the day, transvestite might have been considered to people like a dirty word or an insult, but he happily wears the title, like, I'm a sweet transvestite. And now he's happily wearing, this is the thing that they used to mark people with, to shame them as homosexuals. I am wearing it now as a pride of place and stuff.
Yeah, so I think that there can be no doubt that it is the triangle is a Holocaust reference, just because of the placement and everything. It's interesting. I've never considered that the color saturation might be why it doesn't appear pink. I thought that it was just more for subtlety, or Leandra often likes to take the position that like all of anything weird like that is like because they were aliens trying to mimic people and did it poorly, which I don't necessarily disagree, but I'm not sure about that. But I definitely think for sure it is meant to evoke the pink triangle of the Holocaust. There are a lot of not terribly subtle references to gay culture and iconography in this movie, as I'm sure you know.
I have no idea.
I know. Now you're doing a great impression of my dad at Thanksgiving dinner. Like, Kelly, what? You're saying you're gay? But no, it's his like the tattoo is also, it's a perfume we discussed in a previous minute, which if I remember correctly, it's a perfume was sort of associated with gay culture at the time. Is that right, Leandra?
So the tattoo of the numbers that is on the leg is 4711, which had a resurgence of popularity in the 1970s, and definitely by that point was used often by homosexual men.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought you said. It's true. I mean, it's not the right placement for a Holocaust tattoo, but it's true that now, and I brought this up just a few minutes ago when we first see the lab outfit. I don't understand the choice to reference the Holocaust in this way. I don't really understand what statement he's trying to make.
It's also it does kind of come across purposes as well, because like he is experimenting in creating a human, an ideal human who is blonde hair and blue eyes and stuff. And the Nazis are obviously obsessed with the Aryan race and experimenting on human beings. So it is like, is Frank a Nazi? Like what? But he's also wearing the pink triangle. So like, what's going on with this guy?
I would say Frank is definitely not a Nazi, because it is like explicit canon that his enemy, Dr. Scott, is a former Nazi scientist. Because of the Dr. Von Scott line. I mean, I think that's pretty clear that's what, and Leandra and I even discussed this recently, that couldn't mean anything else, really. And the reaction that Brad has to it. Well, and if I remember correctly, that also, this is not even for this minute, this might all get cut, but if I remember correctly from my history lessons, I think the Nazis were obsessed with UFOs.
They were, yes.
Or Hitler was, at least. Yeah,
and
so that would
occult,
make sense why... Yeah, so that would make sense why Dr. Scott would be a Nazi scientist if he now works for the division of the FBI that works with UFOs. I mean, I guess it is, if he's setting himself up as because Frank is, again, the rival or enemy of Dr. Scott. They're not friends. So I guess if Dr. Scott is a Nazi, then dressing Frank as one of the victims of the Nazis makes a little more sense.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's kind of heavy material for Rocky Horror Minute, but it is what Richard O'Brien has charged us with discussing. So
again, too, it's like his dream man is like an Aryan looking kind of dude. So you're like, well, and then you got the thing, because it's kind of a punk rock movie from the 70s anyway. A lot of the punk rockers at the time were using Nazi symbology and stuff. I know Susie Sue used to wear swastikas and stuff. So it's like, oh man, maybe they're trying to mix it. Like it's becoming a weird postmodern blitz of everything's kind of mixing together and stuff. And
again, my kind of boilerplate statement on things that don't quite add up is these are aliens who had like 20 minutes to know everything about human culture and then just went, okay, well, I'm pretty sure that this is that. And yeah, so apparently if you're gay, you're supposed to wear a pink triangle. So I'll go ahead and do that. And they just completely missed the reasoning behind these things because they're just skimming through history.
Right.
There's another weird thing too on Frank's scrubs, and I don't know if it's a zipper or something, but like under, just on the other side, it's like a white line.
So it is sewn on, sort of. This is where there was a rip in the front of it, and it was stitched back with surgeon stitches, I believe.
Okay.
So this is ostensibly to give the impression that this has been used before by Frankenfurter. So this isn't the first time that he's tried to make a man. This is possibly the first time that he's invited people to see his triumph, but it's not the first time that he's worked on this, and he's worn this lab coat several times.
So they meant to make that impression, and what I got from is either he's either spat on his own by sheer, over theatrical enunciation, he spat on his own clothing, or somehow else something else got splattered on his clothing. Maybe they didn't get that point across clearly enough.
I will throw this out there. Many years ago, I saw one of the Rocky Horror pornos. I'm pretty sure that it was Rocky Horror Picture Show. And at one point, Columbia is on her back and she is trying to provide lubrication for herself, but without using her hands. So she tried spitting in such a way that it would arc over her chest and into her crotch. And obviously that's not a thing. So she ended up just spitting on her chest and she laughed. And I found that to be one of the best acting choices I've ever seen in any film. And
I think it's bold of you to assume that is acting.
Listen, I can hope, I can dream. She was really talented.
That's totally
okay,
something I would do.
Ew.
I love it. Well, no, not. I'm just saying that if I needed spit to go there, I would try something stupid like that. That's very on brand for me. Not necessarily that would ever be a situation I would find myself in.
With that one, it wasn't a Rocky cast that did this. It was a pornography company who released this and filmed it. But what they did was they rented costumes from the local Rocky Horror cast.
Oh.
So they have really, really good costumes. And then they returned those to people. So it's just a little bit disturbing when you think about that.
That's going to be a real, make sure you get these dry cleaned before you send them back, please.
So
I was worried you're going to say, they're all, the porno cast were also in that production of Hair from the early 70s. There's everybody in this thing!
So one thing that I wanted to just bring up, there are a couple of lines in the Rocky Horror Picture Show that people aren't 100% in agreement with on what is actually being said, and one of those happens in this moment. And it is, "Tonight, my unconventional," and then the word after that is either conventionalist or conventionists.
I always thought it was conventionalists.
And that's what I always heard, but there are some people out there that go, "No, listen," and I really don't hear the all of those syllables.
Yeah. Well, and I will say this. I have also always thought conventionalists too, but when Leandra first brought this up to me, after thinking about it for a moment, conventionists would make a lot more sense.
It sure
Conventionalist would. Does not make sense in that sentence. So there is that. But it does, I don't know why everyone hears that. It's like a Mandela effect or something. But yeah, personally, after having reviewed it, I have changed my stance on that, and I do think it's conventionists, but...
So before I jump into some kind of detailed mini bios on all of the Transylvanians, I did want to talk a little bit more about Janet and her reactions in the first part of this minute. She goes from being completely terrified of everything to I am literally flirting with my fiance right next to me in the span of no time at all.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even imagine doing that.
I can, but
Shocking.
I know. But I think that, like, it's just, Frank is so charming and, like, charismatic, and at this point in the movie, he's still, like, completely in control of everything and just has everyone eating out of the palm of his hand. So, yeah, but I think especially Janet has fallen under his spell, like, immediately. And now for a commercial break.
Hi, I'm Aaron.
I'm John.
And I'm Nikki. We host Rocky Talkie Podcast, a weekly program where we talk about worldwide Rocky Horror related news and current events from the shadowcasting community.
We cover big global news stories about the movie, the play, the actors, and the shadowcasters.
We also fill you in on all the cool Rocky related projects that individual casts and shadowcasters are working on.
We learn a lot about the history of the movie and the community. It's a good time. We just did an episode all about the pornos. Ooh.
If you want to learn more about Rocky in the news and catch up on what's going on with other community members, visit our website, rockytalkiepodcast.com.
And if you've got some news to share, send us an email at rockytalkiepodcast@gmail.com.
Our episodes drop Thursdays on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. So come check us out and visit us on all social media at Rocky Talkie Podcast.
We'll see you next Thursday. Snoogans.
You said see you next Thursday.
I've been wondering if maybe he was being, like, a little bit mocking of Brad.
I think there is the vibe, because when Brad is doing his assertive, manly business, like, of, all we wanted to do was use a phone, like really, and then, really trying to square up to Frank. Yeah. One, he's not intimidated by him at all. And he is actively, like, rolling his eyes of, like, this is what, I know this is what this guy thinks he needs to do to try to threaten me and stuff.
100%. And yeah, he's been mocking them this whole time, like, oh, what charming underclothes, and, like, the Transylvanians are laughing at the things he's saying about them, so... So there was actually a quote from the commentary that I thought was really interesting. Richard O'Brien said that he thought Tim Curry understood the camera work better than anyone, even though he said that Tim Curry just immediately knew how to interact with a camera and just play to the camera, even though it was his first movie. And it was most of their first movie, but for some reason, I guess Tim Curry was just a real natural on camera. And Patricia Quinn was actually really offended when Richard O'Brien said that. And she said, you think he wasn't better than us? And Richard said, well, I think he was. And she said, well, excuse me, he was on it more, which I guess is true. But anyway, I just thought that was an interesting bit of insight from Richard O'Brien that I guess, and it's true. I mean, he is amazing on camera and so fun and just interacts so well with it. We've talked about his little fourth wall breaks and everything, but he has a great sense of where the camera is, So, and also Richard O'Brien also said in this minute of the commentary, he said, I thought they were rather fetching, those masks. They seemed sort of surreal, those strange masks. And I was like, what? They're just like masks. They don't seem that surreal to me. But anyway, that's obviously, like, darkly humorous in 2020 when those masks are anything but surreal to me now. But So he even like he asked Patricia Quinn where they came from, and she was like, "I don't know. They just handed it to me. They were just masks."
When you talked about those masks, I'm actually really confused as to how you could think that those are just totally normal masks. They're some sort of fabric, but they're vaguely shiny. It almost looks like they are made of a kind of Pepto-Bismol pink stretchy vinyl. And I can't imagine going to a store or going to a surgeon's resource website, what have you, and saying, "Yeah, I want the stretchy, rubbery pink masks."
Although, again, this year you probably could ask for that because people now are
Yeah.
manufacturing all different kinds of them, whatever
Yeah.
the fuck you want on them. So yeah, you could totally get away with asking for that now.
Yeah,
Well,
I guess I mean you're right, they're pink and they're kind of a weird material. All that I just wrote off as 70s crap. But for the most part, like they just look like surgical masks to me. I don't know.
also, too, I think they serve no purpose in this. Like, it's just part of Frank's theatricality because he doesn't
Yeah,
have to
his
wear the mask.
aesthetic.
He's the one who's
Yeah.
actually in there doing the work. So they just have these masks on for a couple of minutes to do this thing they don't even need to have the masks on for. So
I'll talk about this a little bit more in the next minute, but what that does, at least in my opinion, is if you're looking at Magenta and Columbia, all you're doing is looking at what their eyes are doing, and they are really telling their own story, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, Magenta is nearly passing out for most of this speech. Like she's barely staying on her feet as far as I can tell.
I wouldn't.
No?
We'll talk about this in the next minute. I promise. I'm even making a big old note because sometimes I say I promise we're going to talk about this and then just don't. So I leave everybody
Yeah.
hanging. So I did want to talk about a couple of Transylvanians that you see in close-up in this, and it's not going to be nearly as many as the last minute, so this shouldn't take too terribly long, I say, as I start scrolling through all of my notes. So the first one that I wanted to talk about, we already talked about her a little bit, is Imogen Claire. She's the one that has the opera glasses. So she was born November 2nd, 1943. She trained at the Royal Ballet School and then London Dance. Upon completing her training, she became a member of the Royal Ballet Company. She also went on to choreograph, direct, and design for theatrical productions. She originally was asked to audition for the part of Magenta in the 1973 stage version of Rocky, but she was contractually unavailable. So Jim Sharman still wanted to work with her, and she didn't even have to audition. She was just offered the role as Transylvanian. Claire actually got to keep her jacket and shirt from the Rocky Horror Picture Show filming, and later she got to wear them again in Absolute Beginners with the blessing of the film's costumer, Sue Blaine. And later in life, she ended up as an advocate for dancers as an elected union official in Equity, where she remained active until getting cancer, and then she passed away in 2005 on June 24th. Some kind of fun things that she's been in. In 2000, she was in Billy Elliot as a dance tutor. As I already said, she was in Absolute Beginners. She also was a dancer in Little Shop of Horrors. And she was in Flash Gordon as the special movement director for that. So kind of behind the scenes. And she's in Shock Treatment as the wardrobe mistress, the one that goes, oop, right in the first scene. And she's wearing black tailcoat, and out the left breast pocket, there's a black scarf edged with some white curvy lines. She's wearing one of those lightning bolt armbands. She's got a white satin shirt, round black cufflinks on French cuffs, and a black bow tie. She's got kind of this bib-shaped rhinestone necklace and it's worn below her bow tie and above her vest. And as I said in a previous minute, she's wearing a gray vest, and it has 3 black round buttons arranged diagonally on either side. And she has white gloves. There's a horizontal diamond-studded ring on her right finger and a vertical diamond-surrounded ring on her right pointer finger. And on her left hand, she wears rings on her index fingers, red stones surrounded by clear stones, and ring finger, her horizontal rectangle with 3 rows of rhinestones. It might be a bow. It's kind of hard to tell. I got some of these notes from Ruth. So if she happened to have these, they're going to go a little bit into detail like that. She also is wearing the sunglasses and a tall cylindrical gold paper hat scalloped at the top, so it looks kind of like a crown worn behind her bouffant, so it's kind of hard to see it. And it looks kind of like the one Hugh Cecil, who's the bald Transylvanian, is wearing. And she uses an amber-colored plastic lorgnette with oval lenses in the lab. A lorgnette, for those of us who didn't know, those are the opera glasses that are on the stick. Then next up, we've got Christopher Biggins. He was born in 1948, and he's kind of a big deal. In 2008, he even wrote an autobiography called Just Biggins.
I must read this. They're like, why are you famous, Christopher Biggins? It's like, I'm just Biggins.
Just Biggins. So aside from discussing his life as a public figure, he also discusses his life as a gay man who came out later in life and the cause and effect of that. I think that's kind of amusing because, at least from what you've said, he was in Porridge as the ostensibly gay character, and he's going, oh, no, it came out later in life. People are like, okay, sure.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. It's like they never say it, but it's that, you know, that's the joke that you're supposed to get away from it. It's like they have little allusions to the fact that that's what's going on, but they because it's 70s TV, they can't explicitly say that that's what the character's deal is.
So just to gloss over what he's wearing, he's got a narrow white bow tie. There's a black tux coat with metallic shiny black lapels, white waistcoat worn buttoned. It's similar to what Riff wears, but much, much less dingy. He's wearing gray suspenders underneath his vest, and there are some silver metal clips that you can see. He's got a Transylvanian armband, the electric blue satin shirt with blue buttons, and he's kind of popping out of it. It's a little tiny on him. And he's got white gloves that button at the wrist, no rings. He's got teal sunglasses with greenish lenses and an orange kind of conical party hat with some sort of dark blue spangly pipe cleaner-like thing trim extending from the point, and that's over his hair. And he has a rhinestone earring in his left ear. It's 4 vertical white stones. He's wearing red lipstick and kind of a light gray or blue eyeshadow up to his brows, large circles of red rouge on either cheek. And he is, I think, the only one of the Transylvanians other than that he's one of the only male Transylvanians other than Perry Bedden that I can just point out, even if I have like half a second of the screen, I can say Christopher Biggins was over in this corner. That was definitely him. And then the final one that I wanted to talk about is a little bit of a mystery. So it's Lindsay Ingram. We don't know a whole lot about her. We can't seem to find any information about when she was born or even where she was born, but she did pass away in 2017. She was in shock treatment as an audience member. This is kind of fun. In 1972, she accompanied Diane Langton, who was, as you might remember, one of the members of the glam group Rock Bottom with Gabe Brown and Annabelle Levington. And just to reiterate, Lindsay was not one of those people. Accompanied her friend Diane to an audition for Tooth of Crime at Royal Court Theatre, and Richard Hartley, who is also in the crew for Rock Horror Picture Show, ended up passing on Ingram. he did end up casting Langton in the show, and that ended up featuring Richard O'Brien. And it really does seem like she was just part of the same social circle, and she knew everybody. So when it came time to cast the Transylvanians, they just kind of said, oh, and we'll throw Lindsay in. She's the one wearing a red shirt with her tailcoat. She has white gloves, and she's got just the black tux jacket, as I said, red tux shirt. The buttons are black, the collar's wide. I don't think she's wearing any cufflinks. It looks like she's wearing a silver necklace and a bolo tie. And she's got white gloves, poofy auburn hair, and a beauty mark on her left cheek. So she is very, very fun to look at. But other than a couple of Rocky Horror related things, we don't really see her again in film. Okay, well, let's go ahead and jump on into the callbacks then.
Okay. So the first thing that I had was when he says, such a perfect specimen of manhood, so dominant, and we see that Transylvanian with her opera glasses. The callback is, if he's so dominant, why does she need glasses? And sometimes people will respond to that to see, which is, and then
it's ruining the joke. Why don't you?
A great one is right after Frank asks. Frank says that Janet must be very proud of Brad. There's space to say, Janet, are you a slut? And then she'll go, well, yes, I am. So that's always good. And then after he asks if Brad has any tattoos, how do you tattoo an asshole? And then the response to that is, with 1,000 tiny pricks. So also great. And then right before, so Riff Raff comes over and says, everything's in readiness, master. We merely await your word. And during that beat, you can say, Riff, are you a homie? So that he responds, word. After word, bird is the word. So then Frank spills drink all over Riff Raff's suit. And the callback is, my suit, my only suit. I guess I'll have to go dig up another one. And then we've got, after my unconventional conventionists. Hey, that's us. And then during biochemical research, sometimes people will say bisexual research. And then the only other one I had was when he says paradise, people will always take an opportunity to make a Meatloaf reference in this movie, so you can sing by the dashboard lights.
I have a couple that I was able to look up that are said at different places, definitely different regions. And we have right after so dominant, you can say, hey, Brad, your dominance is showing, or no, he's recessive. So then I don't know why this delights me, but when you ask if Janet is a slut, I really prefer when people say, Janet, are you a cum-guzzling slut? Some people add to that, see slut, lie, lie slut, lie. Another callback to the how do you tattoo an asshole, you can say with a ballpoint pen.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
When Riff ends up getting soaked with the alcohol, one of the other fun things that you can say is, nobody likes a dry hump.
That's a first for me. That's good.
And then a final one, and I think that this is one that I've heard at ours, is when's the orgy, who's invited, make it funny. Tonight, my unconventional conventionalists. Those are all of the ones that I have, though.
Well, if that's the case, then I guess we can just sign off. Same way we sign off from all of our shows.
Okay, so that's now.
Right. Now, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So get the fuck out.
I didn't even remember what it was supposed to be.
I really think that Frankenfurter is the number one power bottom